Okay, story time. We're going to do three trial stories from my trial experience. I'm going to give you a home run. I'm going to give you, I don't know, a double. And I'm going to give you just a funny story. Okay? So, the home run. So, I had this case out in West Texas, like way West Texas, like New Mexico is due north of you, West Texas. It was in a little town called Monahans. Truck wreck case, and my client was hurt. Shoulder surgery, some pain management, some injections in his neck. He was a truck driver himself, and he was injured in the wreck, no question. And there was a lot of insurance, and they told us before we went and tried the case, we mediated that case twice. And at mediation, the second mediation, they said, we will never pay you more than $300,000 in this case. And I was like, man, I may just have this way misevaluated, but I've got y'all 6 ways to Sunday on this. There's a horrible employment history on this driver. In fact, at his prior employer, he quit by literally leaving his 18-wheeler at a gas station. And when you asked him about it, like, where's the gas station? Jackson, Mississippi. Like, where did you go to from there? Miami. Well, did you walk? And you can never get a straight answer from him. Like, how did you get from Jackson to Miami? They didn't do a driver qualification file on this guy. It was just awful. Like, if you know anything about trucking, you know that this was a slam dunk on negligent hiring, negligent training, negligent retention, all that. And as a matter of fact, when we tried the case out in Monahans, we pulled the guy's application up on the screen. And I never really noticed this before. You know how you read something over and over again and it just kind of looks the same? Well, finally, it's pulled up real big, like it's on, 10-foot screen or whatever. And I see that the driver's name is literally misspelled on his application. Now, can you imagine that? So I did like 20 minutes just making hay on his name being misspelled. And we went out to Monahans. What we did is, the way I do it, if I'm out of town for trial, I go up on Friday night. I eat at every restaurant in town. And in Monahans, there's like 10,000 people in the county, so there ain't that many restaurants. If you were a waitress in Monahans, Texas that weekend, you got a $100 tip from me just because I want to curry favor from everybody. I went to First Baptist Church in Monahans Sunday morning, shook every hand, worshiped that morning, and just, word would get around that I'm there. And we go try that case, and they would never pay us over $300,000. And that jury returned a verdict after a week-long trial of $1.9 million. Client couldn't be happier. We got all the chicken off the bone on that case. And it made for a great drive back. As a matter of fact, we had the best chicken fried steak in the state of Texas in Strawn, Texas, over Mary's Cafe. If you've ever been there, it's the best chicken fried steak in the state of Texas. So that's a home run. A double, is it a double? I don't know. I don't know how the gradation of these things, but I think it's a double. So my client rear-ended by a lady. So it's not like you're not suing a company. You're not suing a big company. It's just Joe versus Susie or whatever. And he had chronic knee pain as a result of the wreck. And State Farm offered us $20,000. Never going to pay us more than 20 grand. And we tried the case. And I asked for a lot more than 20. And he complained of ongoing knee issues, but man, the imaging studies changed over time. So the imaging of his knee right after the wreck didn't really show much. And then there was continued degeneration over time. We brought his treating doc to explain how that would all be related to the wreck. Jury didn't buy that, but they did buy enough to get it to where we got $45,000 on that case. So State Farm offers us 20. You try the case, just 2-day trial, and you walk out with a $45,000 verdict. There was only a $50,000 policy. And so after interest, prejudgment interest, after cost of court that you get back and all that jazz, we got it like right there at $50,000. So we got all the insurance that there would possibly be and got the best result from our client we could get. But there you go. There's a double. Now, funny story. When I did work for insurance companies back in days of yore, they would try these dumb cases, just some dumb cases. One of which was in JP Court, small claims court, down in Trinity, Texas, just middle of nowhere. So we'd go down to Trinity, and first jury trial this little JP judge ever had. And here's the case. two cars collide, and they hit a sign at the only like regular sit-down restaurant in Trinity. So they had a McDonald's, they had a Sonic, they had a Dairy Queen. That was it. And then they had this Mexican restaurant that on Wednesday nights, I swear to you, had a Chinese buffet. That was it. I forget the name of it, but that was the restaurant. That's the only like non-Dairy Queen, McDonald's type restaurant that was in town. And so the owner of that restaurant sued both drivers. And so I represented one of them, who was a local chiropractor, and then somebody else represented the girl that was involved in the wreck. And we try the case. We go pick a jury. And it turns out, like when the guy owns the only restaurant in town, I represent the only chiro in town, everybody on the jury like knew all the players. And so out of the panel you would pick the jury from, there's only 3 who could serve on the jury. Everybody else is biased. So the JP judge also owned the feed store, just the downtown feed store. And he told the bailiff, hey, run on down to the feed store and rustle up 3 jurors for me to put on this jury. And that's what he did. The bailiff just came back with 3 yahoos and put them on the jury. And so we tried the case. And long story short, the restaurant owner had an estimate for $7,500 for his sign. And it seemed a little high. And so typically when you try a case, the jury gets a form and they fill out the form and the judge reads it and the judge says what the verdict is. Well, here, the judge never done this before, so he just hands the jury like a yellow pad you would just take notes on. And they deliberate for all of 7 or 8 minutes, and the foreman comes back. He goes, okay, we got a verdict. And judge says, what is it? He goes, well, so-and-so, we thought you could get this sign cheaper, so we gave you $5,000 instead of $7,500. And then he looks at both my client and the other driver, and he says, well, we thought y'all were both 50-50 at fault, so we're just split at 50-50, so y'all owe $2,500 a piece. And that was it. And I don't know why that stupid insurance company didn't pay them $5,000, $2,500 up front for this, as opposed to paying me $5,000 for the day to go try the case. But there's no accounting for insurance company decisions on trials. But anyway, so a home run, $1.9 million in Monahans, Texas, a double, policy limits of $50,000 in Athens, Texas, and just a little funny story down in Trinity. And for more tips on how to maximize your settlement in a car wreck case, follow us at McGuire Firm.